I think we should look law at a realist point of view, where law is how they just interpret the law.
I know, but we also need to look into social welfare. That's
No,
the
it's
thing.
the legal remedial.
Stop. Okay, so we will discuss more in our video.
Look around us. Everything we do requires data, hence why it is our society's most valuable resource. We have data governance, which is the fundamental framework in ensuring data is accurate. Second, we have data privacy, which is our fundamental rights in ensuring personal information is protected legally. We need to look at these three schools of thought: historical, sociological, and realism, to enhance our data governance and data privacy for the future.
I'll be presenting on the historical school of thoughts. The school argues that law is neither divine nor artificial. It grows organically through customs, traditions, and social norms. Two major thinkers of this school is Savigny and Maine. Savigny's theory on the Volksgeist argues that every legal system reflects the spirit of the people, or the Volksgeist. Law arises from customs first, not legislation. Maine's theory had advanced the historical school with a comparative approach. His most famous idea is that modern progressive societies evolved from status to contract. We can apply both theories in the 2023 incident where the MySejahtera app had a breach of personal data. Applying Savigny's theory would say that the society's Volksgeist has shifted. Malaysia now expects total accountability, transparency, and strict limits on data access. The breach had created a collective awareness that outdated assumptions about institutional trust no longer work. When applying Maine's perspective, the breach explores a regression from contract to status. Malaysians were compelled to use the MySejahtera app for public health compliance, so there was no genuine consent, nor was there any negotiation.
We also apply sociological theories to understand data governance in Malaysia. In our writing, we only focus two jurists, which is Roscoe and Jaring. Roscoe theory is social engineering, and it is useful for our topic. Pound says that law is a tool to balance the three competing interests, which is individual interest, social interest, and also public interest. So when we apply this theory into our law, which is PDBA and also Data Sharing Act, we can see how our law is trying to balance these three interests. So the amended version PDBA is actually strengthens the individual interest by requiring the organization to protect personal data more strictly. So for example, they are imposing a higher penalty to non-compliance to the act, and they are also making the position of data protection officer as a mandatory requirement. So these changes actually push the organization to manage data responsibility, reduce the risk of misuse, and build public trust. So this actually reflects Pound's idea that law should maximize welfare and minimize conflict. Next, we also refer to Jaring's theory of struggle for law, which explains why rights only matters when people actively defend them. So in Malaysia, this struggle can be seen in the context of freedom of information. So although only Selangor and Penang has the freedom of information enactment, our enforcement towards the right is actually remains weak. So according to Jaring, citizens must continue to struggle and fight through any request, appeal, or public advocacy to enforce the right we have. However, we have to understand that actually our struggle or our effort to fight for freedom of information is actually being limited by some legislation, but the main law is the Official Secret Act, which give the government a wide power to classify information, and they can classify the information to be official secret so that they can choose not to disclose it. So in conclusion, when we are referring to Pounds and Jerry's theory, we have a better understanding on how our law in Malaysia operates. So for example, Pounds help us to understand how PDPA and the DSA try to balance individual, public and social interests in the digital age, while for Jerry, it reminds us that in data governance and privacy, rights such as the privacy or access to information only become meaningful when people is actively assert them.
So data governance and privacy law actually can also be looked into the realist perspective or the realist point of view, where realists believe that law should not be just what it is stated in the statute, but how the judge interprets such law and how the law is actually embedded in our day-to-day societies. First and foremost, we can look into O.W. Holmes, where O.W. Holmes famously advocated the life of law is derived from experience and not logic. So this is important to know that when we have such law, for instance in data privacy and governance, we have the PDPA. We learn that the data or the data governance have come into evolution into a more complex system and what. And as such, a call to reform such law is important for us to keep adapting to the current trend of technology. Hence why, in the perspective of the Personal Data Protection Act in Malaysia, we have the new amendment, the 2024 amendment, in which it is in response with such evolution of such law. Jeremy Frank advocates that human intervention in a incomplete or feed of flawed laws is important. So hence why this is important in understanding how we have interpreted law in such a long period of time in Malaysia. For example, I can give one case in which Farrah Sarasya versus Badan Peguam Negara, where although the right to privacy was not stated in the constitution, but through our experience, through our evolution of community and whatnot, the right to privacy is actually one of the right under the federal constitution, as how the judge interprets the law based on the.
Welcome to the official website of RIZAL, CHONG and Partners. As you can see, this is our motto, your case, our priority. So, firstly, we would like to show our values, our mission and vision. Now, this is our establishment of the firm. We have summarized everything here for your reading. Now, moving on to people, meet the team consisting Faris Daniel, Chong Rowley, Deborah Grace, and me, Farrah KAMILIA. Now, we shall look into our very main agenda, which is our jurisprudence assignment. So, our title is Data Governance and Privacy in the Digital Age, as discussed before. So, data governance is very highly important as it plays with our personal information. If left unattended, it can create serious, significant harm to all of us. Therefore, we shall discuss by looking into these three schools of thought: historical, sociological, and realist. We also use Akta Perlindungan Data Pribadi in our discussion as well. Hence, we shall look into these schools one by one. Historical school, it was presented by Deborah Grace just now. It established during the 19th and 20th century, championed by Frederick Carl von Savigny, who created Volksgeist, the spirit of the people. Moreover, we move on to sociological school, which was presented by Chong Rowley. As you can see here, Roscoe Pound is the father of this school as he created social engineering. He also mentioned that law should combat with the competing interests within society, which are individual, public, and social. Now, moving on to realist school, which was presented by Faris Daniel. It is where judges realist academics, lawyers use law as a reality check in the real world. We use Jerome Frank and Oliver Wendell Holmes juries in our discussion. Lastly, we shall look into the leadership. So, first and foremost, we would love to highlight that we are team players. As you can see here in these 4 separate posters, all of us came from different backgrounds. Faris was the ketua unit of Club Debat, and Rowley was the president of UUM Law Review, and Deborah was in ALSA, and me, I was in LawSoc. So our past experiences shaped us into who we are now. We are initiative takers. We are all team players, and there's no such thing as leader follower dynamic. No, we all move together. And secondly, we would love to highlight that communication is 100% key. Correction here. It's 1000% key. Everything is, we need to settle everything through communication. As you can see here, we even have lunch together. We conducted many physical meetings. We even wrote our firm name in our coffee cup. So also, we would love to highlight that we have conducted several meetings as well with Dr. Hakimi himself in order to make sure we are on the right track. So these are our WhatsApp messages. So the first picture is us discussing regarding video presentation. The second one is regarding us resolving conflicts. The third one is we would call our team partner to update on the recent news, the recent information. And lastly, our strategic work execution is that the first step is we began by conducting individual research on our assigned topic. And then after research, we held a group meeting to consolidate our ideas. And then we often consulted Dr. Hakimi. And this is the result of us consulting. As you can see here, Rolly jotted down after consultation. And therefore, we all finished our parts according to our deadline, and we followed the instructions. And lastly, our overall reflection is that this assignment has been wonderful to us, has given us many experiences. And last but not least, we would bid special thanks to Dr. Hakimi for teaching us the values of jurisprudence and teamwork lessons.